then the phone is got a camera and everything else on there, so I can see what the robot's doing, whatever. And but have it do stuff through the Arduino, like actuating servos and so forth.
Use the Android phone as your brain of the robot.
Yeah. Yeah, and then basically, yeah, the Arduino is the eyes and the brain, and the Arduino is kind of like the backbone. Is the way I think of it.
Are you familiar with Comma AI?
Comet AI?
Comma.
Oh, no.
Same thing. They're using a cell phone, except for they're driving on-road vehicles.
Hmm.
Well, great. We have open meeting tonight, so we can go around the room and learn more about each of the projects and see where they are. We could do some shared programming with Vinny to see if we can get the path planner working.
So I was able to figure out how to use GDB to kind of catch the errors. That's the good news. The bad news is where it's crashing doesn't make sense. It's crashing in some visualization indexing. But on the other hand, I tried to debug the launch file by folding in parts of the simulation. For, I had the known working launch file, then started folding in aspects of the simulation, and I think what it is the map. Something about the map, and what I'm thinking is it's too big, because the example maps are like 200 by 200, I want to say, and then the map that the sim is using is like 1,000 by something.
So do we need to change the resolution on our map?
Maybe. How was the map generated?
So we took the GPS coordinates of the 4 corners of the field, and then just used 1 as 0, 0, and then we just took the distance, Euclidean distance between the GPS points, and then that's how we got the 4 corners of that field. And the idea was to use that as the model to do path planning and driving around. That's a real field.
So are those GPS coordinates fed into the GPS, the fake GPS topic in the sim?
No, so the Ross uses Cartesian coordinates from an origin, and so we were kind of interested in the GPS data at one point, and so basically I just took the odometry message from the simulator and then converted that into lat long, and then published that message out as a GPS message. So even in simulation, you could have a GPS message to learn from and to use.
Okay. So you're going from GPS to Cartesian back to GPS, but this part of the GPS has no intelligence, or this.
So on the simulator, linked. The simulator only speaks Cartesian coordinates. So that's all that's going on there.
Okay.
In the real robot, on the real robot, the GPS comes in on the real robot, and then we use either Navsat transform or robot localization or some other package to convert that into Cartesian coordinates. So that's what we'll be using.
So once I get done with this, I would like to change that so that we have a fake GPS that's going through the same Navsat transformer or whatever you would be doing on the real robot.
Okay.
But that's a tomorrow idea.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so we have the same software stack running, or as close as possible, kind of.
Right. But yeah, I guess I will get with you offline, or are you the best person?
I don't know. I mean, if you want to make the map smaller, if the thought is making the map smaller, or if there's something wrong, or we can use answers, or we can post up in the Slack group to see if somebody knows about making maps.
Okay. So that's one problem. Another problem I just realized what was going to happen is right now the package is only taking the map occupancy as what it's going to be navigating around. So I don't have a good way. I haven't thought through how it's going to take the laser scan and convert that into occupancy that the hybrid A-star will look at.
Just depends if it's a known obstacle or unknown obstacle. So if it's a known obstacle, then it's already in your map. And then when the path planner is called, then it will give you a path around those things. But let's say that you have an unknown obstacle, you're driving that path, your laser picks up that message. Then what happens is that obstacle gets detected and then gets published on a local map and that obstacle grid. And then your local planner is what says, hey, the global plan told me to go this route, but now I'm in this route and my path is occluded, so now I have to plan a way around that. And that's handled by the local planner.
So that's the distinction between a global planner and a local planner. Global only deals with known.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sure there's
I
lots of
understand.
examples, and I'm butchering this. I have a very like a little millimeter deep understanding of it, but
Okay, so but I mean, basically, what you're telling me is the anticipated problem is not a problem
right.
because I've tested my move-based flex implementation with the TEB local planner,
Yep.
and it's working just fine around that obstacle.
That's awesome.
So I have that. I'm still struggling through getting the global planner working, but it seems like every meeting I'm making incremental steps. But I just want to check in with you or the group, and is this still the right path, or is there need for course correction?
That's a really good question. I don't know. Take it out and drive. I was wondering, maybe on that path planner, the GitHub account, creating an issue about the map size or some question there may be the most. No, nothing.
I've tried reaching out to them on the
Okay.
path planner, writing issues. No one has responded. It's been like 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. I created an issue earlier and I deleted it myself because I answered my own question, but yeah, it seems like no one is actively maintaining it or
Okay.
paying attention to it.
And then answers.ross.org is the main place.
So would I be able to ask that kind of a question for this kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. The navigation stack and questions about map resolution, all of that. Answers.ross.org.
So I don't think it's a problem with the nav stack or move-based flex at the moment. I think it's because of the way, whatever method the hybrid A-star is using, it's just exploring too much at the same time. Because, I mean, I never really formally learned what A-star is, but it has to do some kind of big exploration of a tree and something like that. So I can imagine where it's just doing too much and it doesn't like it. Because where it's crashing is indexing an array. So maybe it's some sort of like memory limitation where you can't fit that array in memory. Because it's a seg fault.
Okay, interesting.
The
Yeah,
other
it may
thing,
be a very big map. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
the other thing you do is make your grid size bigger, because if it was made for an indoor robot, it's probably a 50 millimeter grid, and outdoors you might want to make it a 1 meter grid. And I don't know how the current simulator is set up. So, but for what you're doing right now, just make up any map you want. You don't have to wedge it into what's already there. Just make one that works, and then it could be figured out later too. So.
Sure. So on the issues, I saw that for some reason it doesn't like grid sizes that are greater than, or, not 1 meter. So either greater than 1 meter or less than 1 meter. I haven't confirmed that myself. So that also might be my next step. Thanks, Jeff.
It's good progress, Vinny. Thank you for heading that up.
And back to your question about do you have to avoid obstacles or not? Again, do whatever works, and then once that's working, then we can say, do you want to avoid them or not? Because like a typical situation, which since Kyler's on tonight, he can tell us that if he's driving down the field trying to plant and something in his way, he doesn't want to start driving weird patterns around to go around it. He may just want to stop and wait till something is moved. And then other
Always
times
stop.
you do want to drive around it. So what was your comment? Always stop?
Yeah, I like to stop. if there's something unexpected, I like to stop.
And depending on what you're doing, you may want to do it one way or the other, depending on what the application is. So as I say, right now, if you can get a path planner that runs, and then we can just say, which way do you want to handle it, or does it have to handle both ways? Don't let questions like that stop you. Just do whatever you think it takes to make the thing run, and say, well, now what if I do this? Will it work? And then if it does, then that gives you another idea of where to go from there if it works one way and not the other. So.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm not trying to stop myself on these future questions. I just wanted to bring it up on the call.
Awesome. Thanks for the update. Kyler, what's new in your world?
Well, I have a new dog, and I'm trying to figure out where she is right now. So I'm out walking around. Oh, here she is. I did a demo of my Yanmar again. I think you saw that on here. Gosh, I don't remember when it was. It was quite a while ago. And so I took another stab at that and showed it at Indiana Autonomous Day. Had some help with getting that ready, and it was fun to work on that again. Just real basic remote control. But remote control is where it all starts. I'll encourage people, if you're interested in Indiana and autonomous work, Purdue Westgate has quite a bit of information on it. And yeah, I was a little surprised at what all is going on here, but it was encouraging.
It's good to hear.
On your tractor, are you still using that giant RC servo to run your hydraulic valves, or did you do something
No,
different?
I am not. That was the big improvement. I've got 4 so far proportional valves. So I was able to steer really nicely, and I can also run the loader, which is kind of fun. In fact, today, my old tractor, the one that got me really started, my John Deere 6330, had a leaking hitch cylinder. I had special large cylinders put in the hitch for the planter in 2017, and one was leaking, and I wanted to take it off, and so I just grabbed the joystick and called the Yanmar to come up behind it and lift the hitch so that I could pull the pins out of the cylinder, and that worked quite nicely. It was really handy, and it's great to have an IVT. That transmission lets me go pretty slowly in the shed. It's still a little disconcerting when it starts moving around and hitting things, but it's nice to be able to raise and lower it and kind of bang it around to get the pins out. So remote control for the win.
What what's the brand of proportional valves you're using?
Yeah. So I'm using Nachi, Nachi. That could change, but my I'm not very patient. I like to get valves that I can just buy, and it seems like if I want to do something else, I have to go through a distributor, and I have to talk with an engineer, and he has to say, "Oh, autonomous? Well," and then I'm off on another tangent. And yeah, it's just a real pain. So these are Nachi valves. They're DO3 subplates. I just throw them on a standard block, and I'm done. So I'm looking at some other options right now, but one of my key needs is to be able to just buy them, and that's really difficult. It's really difficult for proportional valves to just be able to buy them. So if anyone else has pointers, I am quite open.
Yeah, I was looking for some. They're solenoid operated on-off ones. I saw. I have a John Deere 3020. I wanted to basically do the same thing with a motor tractor.
Yeah,
I didn't want off on hydraulics. I want to be able to.
Yep, and I've done it with what I call bang bang valves, on off valves.
Yeah.
And I just picked them up from Surplus Center, and I used them on both my little John Deere 420 and my Massey 2745. Both used bang bang valves. So they kind of work, especially if you tweak them a little bit and hit them with special software. They're not ideal. Having the smooth, slow movement of the wheel is so nice. The proportional valve is really sweet, but you can get away with it. Yeah, you can definitely get away with it. I did, however, what did I do? I broke a steering hydraulic cylinder on my Massey, probably because of pulsing that shock through it. So that's a concern.
So can you still control everything, even though you got the proportional valves on there? Is there a manual override on those, or?
Yeah, so on this one, usually I do it, I'd rather do it just in parallel. That's how I did it on the 6330. So I can always drive it. In fact, I'm still driving it. I haven't touched it much since 2017. And I just use it manually. But the Yanmar has feedback steering, so that's really a bummer. It makes it so that you can drive it like a car. So you come out of a turn, and the steering wheel will self-center. I think that's the idea. I haven't had it on the road much.
Okay.
But it also means if you put pressure flow into one side, it will spin the steering wheel counter. So my first tests involved a bungee cord on the steering wheel. So that wasn't ideal. So now I have valves to shut it down, but I just do it manually for now. I don't drive it manually. Even loading it onto the trailer, I just use the joystick anymore. I like it a lot.
Okay.
What about your control software? At one point you said you're using ROS to do the networking, but you're writing your own code. Is that still the way you're going, or are you using ROS modules now?
Oh no. And this was just simple remote control code that I put together quickly.
Was that for the your previous valves?
What's that?
For the solenoid valves? Is that what you're talking about?
No, the software for it. I've written a few different versions, and I wrote a new version for this. And yeah, I'm just using Ross's message passing and a joystick interface. But Ross is really handy for that. I know there's teleop software and there's a lot that I could take advantage of, but I tend to get in a hurry and fall back to doing my own thing.
Do you get the Nachi hydraulic portal valve straight from the company, or do you go through a retailer?
No, I got them through, I think it's Matt at Progressive Power
Okay.
in
Yeah.
Indianapolis, maybe.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
one of the Google hits.
Okay.
I'm Googling it as I speak. So that's
Yep.
okay. I see that website there. Excellent.
Yeah, they've been helpful. Yeah, I do a lot of asking around for help, and I get a lot of runaround with people wanting to engineer my projects, and I just want to get it done. So, yeah, Matt's been able to come through on that.
Awesome. Sounds good, Kyler. Thanks for being here. It's good seeing you again.
It's good to be back.
Alan, how's your robotic arm class going? Can you pick raspberries?
No, I haven't been doing that. I didn't start yet. I guess I started for about 20 minutes one day, but actually, I've got two things here I can share my screen here in a second. All right, let's see where you guys are. So first, I have two GPS units, and I just wanted to test to see how accurate or not accurate they were. So I grabbed a bunch of data. I did about 1,200 steps, which I was taking readings like every couple seconds as I was going. So this is 1,200 or 12,000 seconds or whatever here. And this is the, for example, the lat delta at the bottom here, this bottom chart. This is the difference in feet between the readings from the two GPS units. And it goes left to right from when I started the test to the end of the test. And so you can see the delta is pretty significant. And it doesn't really, maybe it gets a little closer to zero delta here, but it's still a pretty significant delta. So, you know, I was thinking, you know, this was down the path of doing some kind of an RTK thing where I use the readings from one GPS unit to provide correction data to the other unit. So the first unit would be a base station, second unit would be mobile. But I think I'm going to have to get more accurate GPS devices than this. This seems to be too much swing with these particular devices. So I don't know if Jeff or anybody, if you guys have comments, is that plus or minus 20 feet? Is that pretty typical for a GPS unit, or is that too wide of a range?
I'd still like to see plus or minus two centimeters myself. What are you running right now? What are the units you're trying to use?
These were the fidget units.
I didn't know Fidget's made one, but okay.
Yeah.
You should be getting better data than that.
I've seen plus or minus 2 feet in some traditional some of my Novatel GPSs. So, you know, put both of those uncertainties together, maybe max of 4 feet, but 20 feet is Oh, there it is. 2.5. That's best case.
Meters, 2.5 meters.
What is
95.
that in feet?
So that's like 8 feet or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So best case, you have 8 feet, according to the product page.
You can tell what state you're in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell I'm in the front yard versus the backyard. So yeah. So I don't know. I've got there's a little antenna that comes with it. I already have that hooked up and running, and I was, I just stuck the units outside my window, so they were maybe only 2 feet away from the house. But I'm on the second floor, and I had them sitting on the roof, but still just 2 feet out from the window. So there is a wall from the house right there. So I don't know if it would help me to get out further out in the open field.
It might help a little bit, but the numbers are quoting you, that's a non-corrected GPS unit. So it's to get the really good correction, you need to supply RTK correction data to that. So that 2.5 meters CEP. CEP is some kind of a statistical number.
Right.
They'll also quote it in RMS, and I'm not sure exactly what either one of those mean, but what it really means is it's not as good as what they tell you there. So they say 2.5 meters, and well, sometimes it might be 3 meters or whatever. But if you want better accuracy, you're going to have to get something that's got RTK correction or some kind of fancy correction to it.
So you think I really need to get to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, those correction data, just like I think you're using Minnesota's DOT?
Yes, but your receiver has to be smart enough to understand that, and I'm assuming that one you have does not understand that data.
Yeah, probably not. And if it does, I wouldn't understand it yet. So, okay.
You
Yeah.
might be able to get raw data out of it. If so, at least you might find it interesting to do some post-processing, if not in real time.
Gotcha.
Can you pull that web page up again?
Yeah.
Do they make any comment there about what the chipset is? Maybe scroll the page up a little and see what it says down there.
It's probably best. Let me go here.
So CP stands for circular error probable.
It doesn't tell you what chip it's using.
So that was one piece, and then so in terms of building the let me see where I'm at here. Window, get the right window. I hired a guy part-time to help me get going with my project so I can get some speed because I'm kind of behind the curve here. So we've got this much done. I have my rover. There's a few things we got to tweak yet. It's not quite, the frame isn't high enough off the ground, but we at least got a starting view here. I used my SolidWorks drawings and made .slt files out of them, and then he used them to create the Zacro files and the to get us to this point. So anyway, we're getting started, and that's where we're at for right now. It doesn't do anything. I can't drive it around yet or anything, but we're headed that direction. And then the rover arm, I talked about an arm. I noticed this is backwards, but if I can get this positioned correctly here, the arm will be on the front here. So that'll be an add-on that we'll put right here in the front of this rover.
For your arm, are you building it or buying it?
I'm building it using Dynamixels
Oh,
for
okay.
servos.
How big is this thing overall? I've not seen the size.
It's about 3
4
feet
foot?
long. Yeah, 3 to 4 feet long and about 2 to 3 feet wide. Probably 3 feet wide, 4 feet long.
Okay.
So one thing, this is a question I have. I'll have an onboard computer, and then I have my laptop that would be separate from that. So I have 2 computers, and if I am thinking about it correctly, I can my nodes. I could have some nodes on the rover and some nodes on my laptop, right? And publish messages back and forth using TCP/IP.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You could, but correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I have never found it to be a good idea running significant things on the laptop or the base station. I always find you want to throw all your processing on the robot and just have a visualization on your laptop. Is that in line with what you guys?
Yeah, I would agree. You have to have enough on the rover that it can function for a little bit if it loses a signal, and
Right.
you have to have enough there so that any lag in signal doesn't cause it to have problems. So you're right. I have. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just what exactly that. Match what you move with your network's capability, and you'll get some strange behavior. I know I've had problems doing RViz over cell phone. I don't know if it's a timing thing or a bandwidth thing, but then I switch to my local network and it all clears up quickly. But sometimes I haven't had a local network that I can reach when a tractor is off in a distant field, and RViz has some real problems with that. And it might be because of stamped headers and timing, and it just throws them away. But yeah, if you're doing visualization, just be careful with that.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I've done in the past for the boat stuff is we actually built kind of a node that publishes like a web GUI and just pushes out a web, basically a web GUI that our laptop could access, using a web browser, and that removed a lot of the overhead that RViz would require. You don't get something as beautiful as RViz, but you get, where the heading is, where it thinks it's going, basic ability to set missions, that kind of thing. So you can look into that if you're concerned.
So you used just a web page as your GUI on your remote laptop.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
On your robot.
Yeah. Right. The web page was hosted on the robot, and then you accessed it from your laptop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind, if you're monitoring with RViz, you can turn off all the extraneous stuff. You don't need to see everything at the same time. So the more stuff you can turn off, the less traffic you're going to have back and forth. So the better that's going to work in the long run. But back to the original point, yes, I like to put, any control stuff, put it right on your vehicle so it can run on its own, and you're just using RViz to say, go to this location and possibly look what's coming back to have it say, here's where I am, as opposed to having a base station that's running all your navigation software and trying to talk back and forth, because network issues will get you into trouble real quick doing that kind of thing.
You guys
Yeah.
aren't keeping up with AWS RoboMaker, and they're ready to push a lot of stuff over the net.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I learned the hard way. And originally I built all my processing on my laptop and had very minimal on the rover, and I have 4-wheel drive, so each motor or each wheel has its own motor. So I have 4 motors and 4 wheels, right? And I would get 3 wheels to run, and the 4th one wouldn't run because it got hung up on a network issue, or one would be run, you know, all that sort of thing. So struggled with that for a while. So yeah, now I know I've got to keep all of that type of command. So all 4 wheels now always start at exactly the same time, because of the computer right there on the rover is issuing those commands. I am taking the video, so I have IP cameras that I'm using. I don't know if that's the best practice, but they seem to be working pretty well. So I'm pulling those. Those are just going in a separate channel outside of, so they don't run through the computer on the rover. So that rover is solely there to control the, you know, take readings from the motors and control the motors. I don't have to worry about processing any of the video on the rover. So that's my update for today.
Hey Jeff, I put the chip on the chat. GPS, the Fidget GPS.
The one you posted? I believe that SkyTrack Venus chipset is a single frequency. It might be multi-constellation, but it's probably not going to handle any RTK corrections for you. I doubt if you can get any raw data out of it either, like Kyler was mentioning.
I looked and I didn't find anything about raw data from it.
So Alan, just quick question. What program was it that you were using to record the GPS?
I used, it comes with a API, so I use Java to record the data, and I put it into MySQL. And then for right now, I put it into a CSV, but then this is Orange that I used for the visualization. Orange 3, actually, just ORANGE 3.
Okay, so some data visualization toolkit.
Right. Yeah, I'll
Okay,
put
yeah.
the link in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it just looked unfamiliar to me, so I thought I should ask.
So I think, did somebody ask about the raw data coming out of the GPS unit? Let me get a link and I'll put it in here. I think there's some raw data, but I didn't go into it very much yet, and I didn't understand what I saw. So let me paste that in here, and then we can come back to that in a little while.
I was talking about getting the raw data, the satellite data out, because you can do your own RTK, or you can do post-processing if you have that level, but it doesn't look like this one provides that level of raw data.
And they might say that it has binary output data, but that's basically like the NEMA data, just in a binary format. That's not like the phase signals and the satellite distance signals that Kyler's talking about.
So I think they had some things like this, GPGGA, the NMEA sentence, different types of sentences here, and a data structure.
Yeah, that's all the ASCII NEMA data that just says here you are, and that's just it. The fact that it says it'll do 2.5 meters position, it just giving you that data in a readable format is what that's doing.
Okay, so here it's giving the number of satellites and stuff like that. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for something else.
No, we're looking for the actual number of cycles of phase up to a satellite. That if you buy a fancy one, they'll put out that kind of stuff. But these cheap ones usually won't do that. Number one, the price tag of $40 says, no, it's not going to do this stuff.
Yeah, gotcha.
I bought one years ago for $50 that did raw data. So they are out there.
I have some old uBlocks 4s that'll put out uBlocks or put out raw data, but they're, 5 generations behind now, so it's not really what you want. So I'll put in another plug for the U-Blox F9P receivers, and so far I'm still having pretty good luck with those, even though I haven't taken it out and done any excruciating testing on it. But just the fact that it's now the multi-frequency, multi-constellation, and it's their latest generation, they seem to work fairly well.
And are you using C++ to access that data, or what are you using?
Well, I've got a ROS driver that I copied from somebody else and hacked on a little bit to work, and that's out in the ROS Agriculture GitHub somewhere. But basically, the thing will put out either the NEMA data like yours is putting out, and then I think Matt uses that NEMA serial ROS driver, whatever it's called, or you can get one that actually understands the binary messages that come out, and you may or may not get better results. The driver I'm running right now puts out like 6 or 7 different types of, it publishes various topics that give me all kinds of information that's more than you normally get. But the real key is that you want to have a receiver that can do the RTK corrections on board. So you can either go to the DOT and get their data and feed into it, or set up your own base station and feed into it. And that'll give you an accurate XY position. And then since everybody kept whining about having a static heading, I went and bought a second receiver. So my vehicle has one receiver that has correction data from the DOT, and the second one gets correction data from the first receiver. And that gives me a heading to within, like, a few tenths of a degree or something, whether you're moving or not. So that's handy to have, but it costs you twice as much money in order to do that.
Is that me whining?
You mean whining about the heading, or you mean what?
I'm the one who's always pushing for multi antennas. Yeah, it just makes life too much easier for me.
Just everybody along the line kept saying, "Oh, we'll get 2 antennas," and so I thought, okay, fine. I broke down and did that, and it was good that I did, because the second board I bought had the USB connector actually soldered on, so it doesn't break off when you look at it. So I've got one of the original boards that I have to be real careful with. I got the newer board that still isn't real stable probably, but it's better than it was. And
So it's probably this one.
Yes, that's the one there. And then there's another one goes along with it. It's called the Intrip server. So I took I went and found somebody's code, and it's a ROS node you start up, and it will connect to your DOT site and grab the data and publish that as a ROS topic. So then I had to hack on that the actual driver that the Intrip or the driver for the F9P itself. I put like 5 or 6 lines of code in that to subscribe to the RTCM data that I'm publishing, and then it sends that over the same USB cable. So I just have a single cable between the GPS receiver and then your ROS machine, and it sends the correction data out to it, and it receives the position data back all over the same cable. And then what Matt did, he was able to get that extra. There's an extra connector on the board. If you get the RGU Simple board, it's got an extra connector that was originally there to program their little add-on radio. And by doing some kludgy hacking, you can put an extra jumper on there, and you can actually talk to the GPS module by doing that. So he's got two USB cables talking to the device, and that way you don't have to go hack your ROS drivers in order to do that. Yeah, it turns out there's about 1 million different ways to hook this up and do all these different things. So if you get that far, let me know. So I can give you some of those ideas. And as far as that chipset, there's lots of different people. I shouldn't say lots. There's like maybe 4 or 5 different companies that are selling that now. You can either get RGU Simple or what used to be CSG Shop, and now it's, if you type in csgshop.com, it'll pop up with a different website, but it's really the same people. And was it Drotech sells one, and SparkFun sells one, and those are the ones that come to mind. Oh, U-Blox themselves sells an eval board. Their original kit for the older generation, you'd buy their kit, it had both boards, and the newer kit, you just get a single board, so you have to buy 2 of those to make it work. And people have made that work. There's a guy in California I was talking to, and he had the U-Blox kit, and he was able to hack on it and get it to work. Whereas probably one of the most flexible ones is like the Spark Fun, where they just bring all the ports out to connectors, and you can hook up to them. And then there's Arduino Simple, try to make it the point you can plug it into an Arduino and try to give you a little, as they put it, a little more flexibility. And some of the stuff got in the way, but I've made those boards work. And now they've got a new one where you get a board that's the size of an Arduino, and you get a smaller board that you plug into the radio socket. So it's got another one of those modules. So those two boards together give you your position and your heading all in one little block. I think it still costs you the same amount, I think, but that might be another way to consider. But and currently what I have two of the Arduino size boards bolted down to a piece of metal, and I've got just two jumper wires between the two. And then I've got, each board has a USB cable back to my ROS computer. So I run two versions of that ROS driver, and the first version subscribes to the correction data and sends it to the board and gets the position back. And the second board gets the correction data over a piece of wire from the board next to it, and it just sends back over the USB. It sends back your heading information.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks. Back to you, Matt.
Looks like you got a GPS upgrade coming. So you get to be the first person to try out that dual heading from Arduino Simple.
I don't know. We'll see. It looks tough. It's part of the fractal.
Yeah, yeah. Walter, are you making any progress on your Sphero robot?
Same place as before. They're using it just moving forward and backward right now. It's pretty sad. Maybe we'll get some free time when I have a baby.
Woo. When's the date? When's the new?
It's either Sunday that just passed or this Thursday. So anytime in between those days or really soon thereafter would be great.
All right. Another roboticist.
That's right. Train them up right. But so same as before, still got the, running the Ubiquiti, got the, started feeding into command velocity from just, up above, and I'm breaking that into something, down at the lower level. I never quite got to the diff drive, which I thought would be useful, or the other direction, never got any of the NAP. So if we could leverage, like the fiducial stuff you showed on there, like that's just built in, like literally get that up and running, like, why didn't I just tell them to do that? Dang it. So
it's already loaded on your image.
Yeah. Like and it's like amazing. Like you showing that just was like an epiphany. I was like, holy crap. So I don't know, because I think we were thinking of something a little different, but ideally fiducials in my environment are useful anyway. A lot of some of these supply chain robotics companies use QR codes on the floor as like nav aids, which is hilarious. But what they're doing, and it's accepted. So having something like that around would be something useful to leverage too. Anyway, I'm really a fan of Vision, so for me, it just made me happy that you put that on there. So thank you. That was a good thing to see after a week of being beat down. It was good.
For some reason in my mind, I always think that you can't change the infrastructure. There's no infrastructure changes. And then I'm like, well, I can hang up these tags over there. It's my,
Yeah.
So it's kind of opened up a whole new world now. You can change the infrastructure. You can hang signs around. So
And
I think that's where we'll get to. So I'll leverage that again.
the original Ubiquiti, what they did was they pointed their camera straight up, and they put these tags all over the ceiling. So as you drive around to your house, as you drive into the room, it sees that up there, and you get your position from that. So you don't need laser scanners on these things to drive inside of a building.
Right? Or RTK. What? Sorry, too soon. Let me do my example, then I'll prove it. Sorry. Kyler's driving tractors. I'll be quiet. He's actually driving tractors.
good. Is that Lee, LLI? I'm not sure who that is.
Yes, Matt, John. This is, I actually was able to order the Kanjong from another British company called
Yeah.
CPC. So they have some stock. So I ordered 2.
Multi-vehicle testing
Oh.
here.
4-wheel driver maybe.
There you go. 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. Hopefully could get it soon.
Okay, that's cool.
Uh.
Maybe hopefully I did get one of those kits too. I don't know when it'll get here, but that'll be fun to do a build together and see how that works.
Oh, cool. So you already had one, right? You ordered
Yeah.
another one?
Yeah, always get double.
Good idea.
It's electronics and pieces and parts. I don't know. You see that in the background? Those are boxes full of pieces and parts.
Cool.
See Walter's background? Those are pieces and parts. Yeah.
I've got cows in my background at the moment. Those are pieces and parts.
Jeff's got it all
Those are-
cleaned up.
Those are parts for hamburger. So
I have
you-
cows in my background too. Just on the other side of the fence.
So you can put QR codes up on the wall, but I see both Matt and I have Ross Agriculture codes up on the wall. You
Yeah,
try
probably
to
use
You
go
can
over
embed
and
it
look
in
for
there.
those.
Really? Yeah, just embed it and go.
Those codes don't do anything, right? I don't think
What? The QR codes?
the Ross
Ross.
agriculture codes, do they work?
Oh, Matt won't tell us. It's magic.
It's magic. We'll have to design our own structure and language. Be the cool
I can't
kids
get a
club.
simple path planner working. I don't think we can structure QR codes.
Vinny, all we want to do is go from point A to point B. How hard can that be?
True.
Seems simple. No, I know it's not simple. It never is simple.
Now, Bob was just asking me how I do my Ross Agriculture sign, and well, I told him it's just taped to the wall back here over the top of the green screen.
Looks like it's floating in the sky.
It actually looks like if you get real close, it looks like it has a border around it. It looks like it has a shadow in there. It really does have a shadow because it's not laying flat on the stuff behind it. So it looks like I went to great lengths to make it do that.
Yeah, Jeff, a question, like how you make your background so cool? Is that a real background or it's a virtual background?
That's just a virtual background, just a photograph. So what you do, you go into Zoom and go to the options, and there's a thing that says virtual background. You click on that and you say, yes, I want a virtual background. You give it the picture, and it says it prefers like a solid background. Here, if I turn this off.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Like turn that
where's
off
the-
like this. See, it's just a piece of green cloth that's hung up on the wall. And then when you say
Oh,
you want
cool.
a virtual background, it takes anything that's green and gets rid of it, and then substitutes it with a picture like, see, like that, or like that. So I got all these different
Very
pictures
cool.
that I downloaded. So I just downloaded pictures and stuck them on here so I can basically put up anything I want.
Very
It's actually
cool.
quite easy to do.
Where's the option? I could not see the option.
The what?
The option, like the setting up.
Oh, you go to down the bottom of the screen where it says the stop video, and there's a little up arrow next to it. So click on that to bring up your video options.
Oh,
Let me,
video settings. Okay.
Let me share my screen here. I think it's this screen. Well, it just disappeared. That was apparently wasn't what I wanted. Let me try that again. Share screen. How come this doesn't work? Can you see my screen at that point?
We can see a Windows background.
Huh, maybe it's because I got the virtual background running that won't work. So anyway, I guess I can't share the screen, but anyway, if you go down to where it says, any way to bring up the options, but on mine, I go down to the bottom where it says the little video icon, and next to it there's a little up arrow thing. If you click on that, it says a bunch of options, say video settings on that one. You
Mhm.
click on that,
Gotcha.
and then go down about 4 or 5. It says virtual background, and it may or may not say that depending what version of operating system you have and what version of Zoom you're running. If it doesn't say that, you can't do it. But if it says virtual background, you just click on that and it brings up the option to pick a background and turn it on.
Gotcha. Cool.
I don't know. Here, let me try this. Let me try dragging this over to my other screen.
Probably you have extended monitor. That's why.
Well, it said screen 2, and I could see it, but then when I pull it up, there's nothing on it. So let me try a little bit harder here. Let's see. Go to screen 1 and share. That didn't work either. So apparently, when you're running a virtual background, you can't share your screen. So I didn't realize that till just now that doesn't work. So theoretically, if I turn this off, I say I'm wasting a lot of time here, but we're just playing. So if I go to there and now say share. No, don't want that one. Share screen. Screen 2.
Wow, he's
Sure.
got the virtual background going like Tron.
It's still not going to work. Oh well. And that's the other option. It says, do you have a green screen or not? Apparently, if you don't have a green screen, if you got enough horsepower, it'll do it anyway. So I don't know how Doug's doing that, but he must have. A
I just
better
follow your
computer than I have.
instructions, and I threw out a picture of a Star Trek screen. And it's doing it. So
See, on mine, I have to have a green screen behind me or it won't work. And apparently,
it says, okay.
So anyway, it's just something you can play with and see if you can get it to work.
Cool. Thanks.
And I'll just bring up a minor point here. I finally got around to loading VNC on my Raspberry Pi on my robot, and then I found an instruction that said load. I think it's called Type VNC Server. So you download that and say start server, and that's all it takes on the Raspberry Pi. So I went back to my laptop and found a couple of different programs that would work, but for some reason it doesn't work all the time. I was last night playing with it, and I clicked on it, said start up the browser, and it wouldn't show up on my screen. I started 2 or 3 times. I finally went down to my robot and looked at the screen. It's plugged in that one, and it starts the browser on that one, but doesn't transfer it to my one upstairs. So I don't know what's wrong with that. That's just another one of these things that doesn't quite work right. I'm not sure why. And the other thing I was talking about the last couple of meetings was how do I set up my networking. I finally decided that if I take my home network over an Ethernet cable and plug into the Raspberry Pi, that one will connect and work. Or if I unplug that and have the wireless on the Raspberry Pi connect to my cell modem, that will work. So I can now, without doing any configuration, I either plug in the Ethernet cable or turn on the cell modem, and it'll connect without having to log in and screw around with the configuration. So that I think that's going to work out for me if I can get that VNC stuff to work.
It's like if you're in your house, you just plug in physically connected, and if you're out running around, then you hook to your cell phone.
Right.
That's nice.
I can't leave it on the cell phone the whole time because I've got that free 200 megabyte account, which would chew up my data real quick if I left it on all the time. So it's nice to have it in the house. Just plug the cable into it and be able to. I can sit there all day talking to it, and not chew up my cell modem data.
Excellent.
I guess that's all the updates I have.
Thanks, Jeff. We're running at the top of the hour. Are there any other comments or things to cover for tonight? All right. Happy, it's March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. All right.
Night.
Guys, have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. See ya.